filming in-house here as well. See how that goes. People are still joining, and we're 2 minutes over. We'll just wait another minute to get everyone in here. All right, I can see you.
And you can hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Great. Good, good. Good to see you, Gaute. Very nice that you join us. Oh, there's 2 screens of people here. That's really cool. I like that. Great to see so many people joining. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello.
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 Hello. There's people all over the place. People still coming in.
Well, Franco's in.
Oh, yay, Franco. Good to see you. I was getting worried. That's great.
Good to see you all.
Ah, good morning. How are you on Aussie time, or are you Norwegian or UK time?
I'm on UK time in between a house renovation, so I'm a little all over the place.
Business as usual then. So
I'm
Franco
on
has
Eastern time,
Oh, okay.
United States.
Nice. Anyone else?
5 a.m.
It's so good to see people from all over the world. Nick, what time zone are you in?
I'm in Eastern as well, so it's 5 a.m. It's all good.
Good morning to you. Got a big cup of coffee?
I don't yet, but that's okay.
So if Nick turns off his camera, it's just because he's gonna go get big chunk of coffee. Good to see the VD guys eating out in the meeting room in Sarpsborg. Good to see you. All right, we'll kick off because we have a lot to go through. First of all, let me just say thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. This is Portallunsj, May 2023, and this is a special edition because this time we will record, it will be in English, and we'll have some esteemed guests. That's not common for us. So usually this is a Norwegian meetup thing. We never record. It's very easy for people to contribute. But today is going to be a bit different. We're going to have demos. We're going to have 3 great speakers with me here today. Really excited about that. First of all, this is me. I'm Ulrike Akerbæk. I'm working out of Itera in Fredrikstad here in Norway. I'm a low-code practice lead and Microsoft Business Applications MVP. And I've been working with Power Pages since, well, before October, let's put it like that. When Microsoft bought it, I was on board and I've been working with it ever since. And that's many years now. So if you have any questions, please reach out afterwards or during. We have a very easygoing theme here. So please, cameras on, let us see your face, see how what we're saying resonate. Unmute if there's anything along the way. Don't wait for the end for questions. Ask questions in the chat. Use the chat if you like, if that's available to you. Raise a hand or just interrupt midway if you like. That's all good. And I usually take a picture because that's nice for social media. But now we're so many people. Let's see if I can switch this to a bigger gallery. Oh my God, that's so cool. Just wait a second. See, everyone comes in here. Can I see everyone? No, together mode, maybe. Let's see what that, oh. Let me just share this a second. Everyone can see what I'm doing. So this is cool.
Looks
Let's
like I'm
do large
slouching.
galleries. Let's see if I can get a picture of all of us. So if you want to be in the picture, smile. Uh-oh. Let's see if I can do a screenshot like this. Andreas adjusting his glasses. That's on you. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Back to business. Let's see if I can get this. Oh. Let's see. All right. So getting into the agenda for today. This one's yeah. So this is run platform, Power Pages user group Norway. Sorry. So if you want to follow these meetings, and if you know Norwegian, welcome to join us anytime. We have these meetings once a quarter. And this is the usual agenda. We would go through news and events, out of the box functionality. So we would have one topic each time for anyone to join low code, and then one advanced theme as well. And then we'll talk about next meeting. But this is a special edition. So this is the agenda for today. Nick is going to start us off telling us how to get started with Power Pages. What is the product for? What's the best use case? And then Gaute will walk us a bit through how he got started. We had a hackathon in February where Gaute didn't know anything about Power Pages. Nick was standing beside him. It took 15 minutes approximately, and then Gaute was off building his Power Page. And I wanted him to tell you about how that experience was like. And then I will show you a support portal that I did for Össur, one of our Icelandic customers, during the Christmas holidays. It took about a week and a half to put that together. And then Franco will show us Hussoppen, or Norsk Hussopp Forsikring, translates to Norwegian fungus house fungus insurance. Yeah, you're allowed to laugh. We laugh also. In their offices in Oslo, they're not any art. It's only big pictures of house fungus. Very cool. The portal looks much better, and that's what Franco's going to show us. It's a real good use of out of the box functionality with heavy customization working, and the user can't tell the difference. The user can't tell what's out of the box or what's extended. It's a real project. We'll look at some resources. So I just got a question earlier today. Who should I follow? Where should I go to find out more resources for Power Pages and Power Apps and Power Platform? And we have some great resources for you. So stick around for that, and then we'll show you what's up next for the next meeting. Nick, have you gotten your coffee yet?
No, I'm good. I'm good to go.
Okay, good. Can you share?
Sure.
Did I put it up as a presenter?
So let me do this. Okay.
Now, if you're sharing your screen, I can do this. Uh-oh.
Oops. Move you over here.
No, sure. Does this work for you? Yeah. Okay, good.
Okay, I don't need this. Go away.
Switch presenter mode and up in the left corner, I think.
Oh, right. Yeah, something's funky happening. Just give me 2 seconds here. These stupid widgets.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, go away, widgets.
So just while Nick is figuring out how to share his screen, which he's never done before, this is the first time he's presenting. Yeah, so this is actually something that came up last time we had the Portallunsj. We had a couple of sales people, business people coming in, and they were saying, this is great that you're keeping this up. I love the meetup. But for me, I don't understand really the use. When does Power Pages fit in? What is it really for, and how do we get started? And that's why I brought Nick in, because first of all, Nick's a good friend of mine, so he does everything I tell him.
Jeg sier meg helt åpen, for jeg sa ikke Tove for Even.
Tove? There we go. Thank you. And Nick has been the product forever. You do this regularly, right? You tell people that don't know anything about Power Pages what it is. So you're the go-to guy for anything Power Pages in my book. So thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. I'm not sure if people really realize how big of a deal this is, but thank you. And the floor is yours.
Thanks. All right, everybody can see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's start off with getting started Power Pages. I'll talk a little bit about who I am. My day job, I'm a senior content developer at Microsoft. I was in Microsoft MVP from 2017 to 2021. I'm a certified trainer. I'm also a competitive powerlifter. I'll be actually on my way to South Africa in about a week and a half to go for the World Bench Press Championship. And I just found out yesterday I'm going to North Americans. Those are my contact info. So you can follow me on these various channels. And I also do this podcast with a really good friend of mine called the Power Platform Boost Podcast. We release an episode every 2 weeks when we talk all things Power Platform and what's new. So highly recommend you check that out. So the other thing I need to say is, was there a question?
Oh, sorry.
I can keep going, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So I just got to do this little disclaimer. Even though I'm a full-time employee of Microsoft, sometimes a lot of these presentations, a lot of these ideas and views are really based in my own experience. So I may sometimes show you something that might still be in progress or things like that. I don't think so today. Everything should be publicly available, but just in case something slips, don't get me in trouble. So let's dive right into the demo itself, because I know we really want to talk about the real stuff, and I could talk a little bit about use cases and things like that as we go along. So dismiss that. So to start off with, for those of you who want to start out making Power Pages or that kind of thing, all you need to do is make sure you have obviously a Power Platform environment and subscription set up, and then you just have to go to aka.ms/MPP, Microsoft Power Pages. It's as simple as that. And then this is going to take you to something we call the Power Pages homepage. So if you've already been building Power Apps or Power Automate, you know that those products also have home pages, and Power Pages is no different. We have a home page that goes directly into the environment. Now, what can you use? What is the difference for Power Pages versus building a Power App? Primarily, Power Pages is you build a website, simple as that, the same as you're building WordPress or Wix or some of these other tools. The secret sauce, or the reason why this makes it very powerful, is these Power Pages can tie directly into Dataverse. So if you've already been building Power Apps or using Dynamics 365 to build your business applications, now you have the ability to surface those into a website, so your external customers, your partners, your members are able to log in and interact with Dataverse. Now, of course, there's a whole security system built on top of this, which I probably show you a little bit today, that's going to make sure that only the right people see the right information. So it's definitely going to be secure. So diving right in, so we're into our homepage. Now, again, I know that there's some people here that have been using Power Pages or Power Apps portals for a while, and I want to show you some new things as well. So I want to make sure that this is good for everyone. So what if you're just going to be experimenting and playing with things, I would recommend you set up a developer environment. Those are great because with developer environments, you're able to experiment, and these environments don't expire. And the other thing is, pretty soon, when you're developing portals, you can develop portals on the developer environment as well, and we'll be able to keep going with that. The other thing, so I would recommend you do, and this is for folks that have been working with Power Pages for a while, is go into the Power Platform Admin Center. And I know that folks if you've been working with the Power Platform, you've been probably doing this for a while, working within the Power Platform Admin Center, setting up environments and things like that. What I want to show you is there's a new mode called the Enhanced Data mode. And what makes this special is this now will enable you to move your Power Pages solutions from one environment to another, but you first need to enable this enhanced mode. So within the Power Platform Admin Center, go into your sites, and then what's going to happen is you're going to see this should show up soon. Maybe I have to select this. Interesting. This is supposed to, oh, maybe it's just on by default now. Up until yesterday, there was a little button here that actually would say, to enable what they call the enhanced data mode. This is going to allow you to create sites that will use a different data mode than you used before. So it means less tables. It's going to mean solutions that are going to be automatically updated as part of Dataverse. So a lot of that maintenance you had to do prior is going to kind of go away. And it's also going to make things a little bit more lightweight. And then the big benefit is, I'm going to go back to my portals or Power Pages homepage. You'll notice here that we have the Solutions tab. This means that we can now add Power Pages sites and configurations to solutions and move those from one environment to another. So that is something that's pretty exciting to me. And I think anybody who's worked with ALM with Power Pages to be able to move your configuration from one to another using those solutions. So that's new. The other thing that's new as of the last day or two, you may or may not have noticed this, you'll have this two thing, active sites and inactive sites. Now, what this basically means is if your website expires, like set a trial and 30 days goes by and then it expires and like oh, it expired, I can't go back to it, and because my data is deleted. Well, no, your configuration doesn't get deleted. What happens is the host, the website host that gets provisioned in Azure, that will go away, but you don't lose any of your work. So you can always go back to your inactive sites and reactivate it. The other cool thing is what I showed you before about moving your portal configuration using solutions. When you move the solutions to your destination environment, up until last Friday, you would always had to create a new portal in your destination environment. What happens now is when you move it through a solution, it will show up in this inactive sites and you just have to go in and activate it. So you don't even need to activate or basically create a destination portal anymore. So this is going to make ALM even easier than it was even last week. So a lot of exciting stuff showing up in Power Pages. But I realize this is more of a getting started. So I really want to talk about a couple other things. So if you're new to Power Pages and you land on this site, chances are you're going to see that there's no sites here. You can create up to 50 different sites. I have about 4 created so far. But what you can do is you can go into this create site. It's pretty simple. And what's nice about this is you have the ability to create a bunch of sites using these existing templates. So we have 5 different starter layouts. We have this other one, schedule and manage meetings. We have an FAQ. So if you just want a site with simple frequently asked questions, you can do that. We also have a program registration site, application processing, and a few other starter layouts. And of course, you're always can go completely blank. You have a blank page and you can build up from there. So these provide some use cases that you can use Power Pages for. But in my experience, I've used Power Pages for things like a lot of like classroom registration. I've built membership management sites, so people that have memberships coming in, renewing their memberships. I've also built sites for like grant and scholarship management, so people could go in and apply for scholarships and go through that process. And then even once they've been accepted, using the portal to go in and provide some of those details, someone upload some of that information. I've also seen, portals for, a lot of support, customer support. That's a very popular thing that you can build Power Pages with is customer support. And if you have the Dynamics 365 apps installed, which I actually don't on this particular environment, but if I go to the tab here, it's telling me to select an environment with Dynamics 365, but there are a number of templates here that it came back originally, even from the ADX Studio days, but these templates are now in the process of being modernized for Power Pages. So something like the Dynamics 365 customer self-service template is available to you. And that's a great way to surface that case management capabilities, those knowledge-based articles, even having online forums, surfacing that to your external customers. So a lot of options here when you're building Power Pages. But again, let's go in and actually work a little bit with the product. So I can go through the site here, and then what I can do is I can choose a particular template, and I'll just pick any template here. And then what happens is it asks me to give a site a name, and I'm up to my 5th site. It gives you some defaults, but of course you can change those. It's .powerappsportals.com. But what you would do later on is you could of course, get your own domain and register that domain and link it up to your Power Pages site. That's not a problem at all. And then you would have the ability to provision different site languages depending on what languages that you have provisioned on your Dataverse environment. And then, of course, if you have multiple languages, and I live in Canada, so of course, very often we'd have French and English, so I'd have those 2 languages. And of course, I know in European countries, they have multiple languages. You'd be able to configure your Power Pages site to have multiple languages and allow your users to switch between those languages. Of course, you would have some extra work on doing the translations of the content, but overall, Power Pages is a multilingual capable product from Microsoft. So I'm not going to go through this whole process. And now, because originally when I was doing these demos, I never would, because it would usually take up to 45 minutes to an hour, or sometimes even longer. The great thing now about provisioning Power Pages using that new enhanced data model, this will probably take under 5 minutes. I've been noticing the sites that I've been creating is usually around 2 or 3 minutes. So again, another big bonus of using the enhanced data model. The reason why that is because those tables and those solutions are already going to be preloaded in your Dataverse environment. So it's just a matter of creating an Azure website and then just uploading a configuration that already exists. So great news there that we can provision sites quicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop back to the Power Pages homepage, and I'm just going to go into site number 4, and I'm going to click on Edit. And you'll see a listing of your sites there. Of course, you can also switch to different environments as well. So I'm going to be going into something called the Design Studio, and the Design Studio is made up of really 4 different what we call workspaces. And with these 4 different workspaces, we can do different things. So this is just warming up. As this is kind of coming to warm up here, we have the different workspaces. We have our Pages workspace, which we can do the bulk of our designing and laying out using a what you see is what you get surface to build out your site. We have the styling workspace, which allows you to configure the layout and the styling and the colors, the default colors. It's if you're a very experienced designer, you probably won't use that workspace so much because you probably want to go directly into the CSS. Another thing, if you've worked with portals in the past, a big news coming out is pretty soon we're going to be we at Microsoft will be rolling out Power Pages to be able to use Bootstrap version 5, and then also providing some tools to help you convert your existing sites to Bootstrap 5. So I know a lot of people are excited about that, to finally modernize that Bootstrap infrastructure. Now, of course, because Bootstrap is unique in terms of how the migration went from 3 to 4 to 5, the fact that there wasn't a migration story there, that they radically changed it, is going to, require a little bit of work, but if new sites should be able to use Bootstrap directly. And then we have the data workspace, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And then of course the setup workspace, which is a little bit more of an admin type of thing. I'm going to pop into setup workspace just very briefly. And I know I'm keeping an eye on time too, because I know I don't have the full hour like I sometimes do. One thing that I know a lot of people worry about, well, as I'm working on my site, I don't want my customers going in there and checking it out early. And this is where we have we have something here called site visibility. So by default, all sites are set to private, meaning that only you with your own Active Directory account have the ability to view and work on it, or people on your team, and you can give them site access so they can take a look and work on it. But then when you're finally ready to go live, we have a whole go live checklist, and then you would flip it to public. So again, another layer of security to make sure that people aren't, accidentally exposing things and data that they shouldn't be. So I'm going to quickly, before I go into the Pages workspace, I'm going to go into the data workspace. And the one key thing that you need to remember about Power Pages is it runs on Dataverse, meaning the metadata stored in Dataverse, the authentication system, you have Dataverse contacts that will tie into your users, and then it has the ability to surface any Dataverse information. Now, I know I've gotten the question in the past about saying, hey, I want to tie this into SQL, Azure SQL. Can I do that? And before I would say this is very difficult, but you can do that now using virtual tables. I'm not going to go through that today, but just know that if you want to surface some data from Azure SQL, you can do this through virtual tables now, as well as SharePoint lists, and other providers are coming soon. So I've already set up a table. It's called machine orders. And if you've done the app in a day, I'm going to use basically the same tables that you would build if you're making Power Apps in a day. I also want to let you know that we're beginning to roll out Power Pages in a day. So this is going to be a good getting started course, or workshop to, if you're brand new to portals and you want to get up and running, there's going to be Power Pages in a day. So keep your eye open for that. So I have a list of here. These are coffee machines. And if you've worked with the Power Apps in a day, you know that you build a Canvas app to create coffee machine orders. And I'll be looking around here for my coffee pretty soon. So here we have this list, and this is a Dataverse table. And of course, through here, we can add new columns. We can basically do pretty much everything we can do into Power Apps. Now, if there is something here that we can't do creating this table within the data workspace, we always have this ability to go and edit directly in Power Apps. But for the most part, I've been finding with the data workspace, we've been able to do this no problem. The other thing we can do here is make sure that we set a solution. So I like to set this to, I'll set this to the Power Pages in a day solution. So this is where any of these Dataverse configurations that we do will automatically be stored to a solution. If you're new to the Power Platform, solutions are the primary vehicle to bring things from one environment to another. So if you're bringing it from your dev to your test to your production, that's what solutions do. And of course, now our configuration can be added to a solution and moved as well. So we have this table here. Within Dataverse, there is built in with Dataverse things called views. And I have this view, which is really just a list of information. And this is going to bring up that if you've worked with Power Apps, the model-driven designer, you'll recognize this designer. This is where we can add columns. We can add filtering. We can do a lot of fun stuff here on that view. And then I'm going to go back here and I'm going to go into forms. And also within Dataverse, if you're building Power Apps, model-driven Power Apps, you have forms. And I've already created this supplier form using the data workspace form designer. And I've basically added those fields to this form. So let's give this a second to come up. And it's probably really hard to see. So let me just zoom that in a little bit. So you'll actually even see the business process flow on top, very much like you would. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Let me try that again. Clicking on a laptop here. So basically, we have this ability to create this model-driven form, and that's what Power Pages will use when we're building out web forms. So I have this here, and I can add components, I can add fields, and that type of thing, very much like we would be doing if we're designing a model-driven app. So now that we have that foundation that we've created in Data Workspace, we can take this and surface this on a web page. So I'm going to go to the Pages workspace. Click. And Here we have basically, like I mentioned earlier, the what you see is what you get. So I can go in and begin to edit some of these features and things on this page. But first thing I'm doing, I'm just going to create a page, and all we're going to do is just surface some data versus information here. So I'm just going to go to just machine orders. I'm just going to call that, and I can call this anything I want. I want to add this to the main navigation, and I can pick from standard layouts. And if I wanted, I could even go so far as create custom layouts. Now, I've not created any custom layouts, but this is something that your pro developer or anybody can do to to build out a kind of their own way of doing things. And that's typically what I would do in a project. But for today, I'm just going to use the standard layout. I'm going to make sure that's going to be added to the main navigation. I'm going to add this. And what this is doing in the background, it's creating that configuration data, which will be stored in Dataverse as well. But this is creating this. And then we can begin to design our page. So I'm going to add a bit of text. I'm going to basically give the page a title. So I'm going to put in there, I'm going to call this machine orders. And I'm not going to make a paragraph. Let's make this a heading 1. And I can do things to style it. I can center this. I can actually now even go so far as to make it, I can make it a hyperlink if I wanted to. I can change some of the design here. So keep an eye out. There's new little icons and tools that get added on a weekly basis here. So some of the stuff you might not have seen before, but it's there. So I'm just going to, now that I've added my title, I'm going to add a spacer. Just again, to make my design a little clean. And I'm going to add here, I'm going to add a list. So this is the things that are connected to data. You see form, multi-step form. We have a list in Power BI. And, potentially there'd be other things that get added here. I'm going to add a list. And then it's going to come up with a pop-up. Where's this table? Where's this going to be stored? So here's where we choose our Dataverse table. So I'm going to go machine orders, because that was the table we created earlier. And then we can pick the views. These are the data views. Those are those model-driven views. I'm just going to pick active machine orders, and then I can give it a name, anything I want. Now, the other thing here is I can choose different actions. And I haven't created any other forms, but if we want a form to create records or to edit those records, we can activate this particular features here. And then some other options, the number of records. I'll just put 10 is good. Do I want to enable search? For sure. Let's do that. Placeholder text is good. So you have a little bit more of this metadata that you can configure, where previously you would have to use something called the portal management app. But here, the more and more we can configure a lot of this extra things directly. So I've got this machine orders. It's given me some example data. Now, the thing you'll notice here is it's setting the permission. So again, by default, if you're trying to surface data on a Power Pages site, you're not going to be allowed to do it automatically. It's going to force you to set up something called table permissions. So I'm going to go and do that, because we don't want our makers to accidentally surface any of this information. So I'm going to choose here. It's going to fill in automatically, because that's the table I've been working on. And I'm just going to leave this for read permission for now. And I'm going to add some roles. So we have a concept of security roles as well. For now, I'm just going to add just the regular authenticated users. That's an out-of-the-box role, meaning in order to see this data, our users are going to have to log into the portal site. So I'm going to click save. And I'm just going to wrap up pretty quickly here soon, because I do know there's other exciting things coming. So we have this, we've configured this. Now let's hit preview, and we can preview this on a mobile or a desktop. I'm going to choose desktop. And then what this is also going to do, it's going to refresh the cache as well, because if you're working on the site and you're going back and forth, there is some caching capabilities. It's going to be a page not found. Let's just refresh this. And machine orders, but notice I don't see any data, but we did have data in the table. Why is that? Oh, remember that we weren't giving visibility to we have to be an authenticated user. So here's where, and we can set the messaging here to say records not found, or you don't have permission. That's configurable. What I'll need to do is sign in. Power Pages has this whole authentication mechanism. You can also tie this into external identity providers like Azure B2C or LinkedIn or Facebook. Just for today, for sake of time, I'm just going to sign in directly with Azure AD. Because and since I am one of the editors on this portal, it's going to allow me to sign in, and just going through a regular consent process here. And that's something that will only happen once. And then now we should be able to go in. And now I see a list of machine orders here and all that data. So what I did in only a matter of a few minutes was I was able to take a Dataverse table that already existed. Now, even if I created it, and then I was able to surface this very quickly on a web page and even tie it into security that I'd had to log in to see this. And I probably did this in the span of under 20 minutes anyway. If I was to use another tools and build this from ground up using .NET, using Ruby on Rails, or React or those types of things, I definitely could do it, but it would take me a whole lot longer to build this. And now that I was able to do this fairly quickly, I can build a very quick proof of concept. And then once this is here, then we can start designing and making it look a little bit better. Now I just have a list. Of course, I could tie this into forms and do drill downs. And then even with those custom templates, I can make this data look any way how I want it, using the tools of Power Pages. So just to kind of wrap up everything, we provisioned a site, we looked at a Dataverse table, we created a new web page, and we were able to surface that Dataverse table on a web page in a secure fashion that only authenticated users could do that, all within a matter of a few minutes. So hopefully that gives you a taste of what Power Pages is capable of. And if you want to learn more, a couple of things. I would say keep your eye open for this Power Pages in a Day that will be becoming available. There will be folks delivering this, but there'll also be the ability for, if you're self-learner, you could download the materials and try this out for yourself. For those of you, this is going to be a shameless self-plug, but if you're going to the Nordic Summit in September, I'm going to be doing a full day workshop where we're going to be covering the basics, but also diving deep into more of these deeper configuration things. So I'd really love to see some of you folks there for that workshop. If you really want to dive into Power Pages, be more than happy. And then, of course, listen to the Power Platform Boost podcast. It's pretty cool. So that's if there's any other, let me know if there's questions or things like that from this demo.
Thank you
Will
so
Nordic
much, Nick.
Summit be streamed?
Sorry, what was that, Mark?
Will Nordic Summit be streamed, or is that an in-person event only?
That's an in-person event, Mark, but I was there last year. It's really cool, so it's worth the trip. Let me.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions? There's nothing in the chat as far as I can tell. People still coming in. Interesting. Just a quick question, Nick. So what would you say is the primary use case for Power Pages? What would you say?
I would, in terms of primary, probably one of the most popular, and I don't think this is published anywhere, so these are one of these things, don't get me in trouble about, but I believe in terms of the telemetry, the number one is the customer self-service template, and that's for customers logging in and opening support cases and just trying to get that bit of information. So I think that is at this point, and that's because there's probably a lot of history behind it. So that's probably one of the biggest use cases, is that case management type of portal. But that's not to say, like, and I've built a few case management portals, but built many other portals as well. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions from the audience? Anyone in the room here? No? Well, thank you so much, Nick. It was really a great way to get started. Very good to see how easy it is actually to show Dataverse data out on a website. And that is also what Microsoft says that is the primary use case too, right? So if you have Dataverse data and you need people to input or view that data that is not within your tenant or your local user group, then Power Pages is the product. The way to go.
Yeah, and also just to kind of to tap into that too, with the way the licensing works well is, of course, you know that if you're building regular Power Apps, the licensing doesn't really provide for external users unless you buy them your external users a full-fledged license. Power Pages licensing is designed for external usage, so therefore it becomes a little bit. Licensing used to be not so great, and they've made a lot of changes to make it much more accessible. Oh, we have a hand up.
Yeah.
Yes. Could you please elaborate a bit about when to use Power Pages and when not to use it? That's something which was said in the meeting invite we'll be talking about.
Yeah, so a lot of times where I would say, I mean, it with the Power Platform, it always is, it depends on your use case. Things that I would say that doesn't do well is any kind of document kind of management. So if you're trying to do like a library, you're trying to send out a lot of electronic documents and things like that, Power Pages isn't best suited for that. The other thing is if you're doing a heavy e-commerce store, like if you're selling a lot of goods and things like that. It's not to say that you can't do e-commerce on Power Pages, but it's better geared for selling things like classroom registrations or memberships. But if you're selling like t-shirts or toys or things like that, there are much better capabilities with other e-commerce sites. Microsoft has the Dynamics 365 commerce, but even if you're a little bit different, I'd be saying, build a Shopify site or something like that. Don't use Power Pages for that type of thing, just because you could do it, but you'll be probably banging your head against the wall in terms of configuring the layouts and things like that, where something like a Shopify is much more geared to that type of thing. And then you could integrate it using either virtual tables or custom connectors to get back into your Dataverse data. So those are a couple good examples of where I would say not to use portals. And then other sites where to use it is if you have other things with Dataverse, it's that your external stakeholders need to interact with. And like I said, like even application processing or setting up meetings, memberships, grant scholarships, other things I've worked on in the past as well. Like I said, like classroom, even just displaying things like events. If you have internal information you're storing in Dataverse, you want to display to the external world, this is another good avenue to do that. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea. At the end of the day, I've seen a lot of different things where it's like, oh, really use Power Pages for that, and it works. And then other times it's like I've seen people build a lot of custom sites, and I'm kind of like, yeah, you could have built Power Pages and done it a lot faster as well. So if you have something specific, feel free to reach out to me and we can chat about it offline too if you'd like.
Thank you.
And of course, another thing to consider is that out of the box, you get really good lists and views, forms and tables functionality, and as well as pages. And that is also something to consider. If you have a need to display or gather information from external users using forms, for instance, that is a real good use case, because that's something you get really easily out of the box that would cost a lot to develop from scratch, probably. So that's something to look for.
We have another question from Camilla.
Yes. Hi. I was just wondering, I have noticed that there is some built-in portals in Power Pages, for example, customer service portal. That I've noticed is really good, could be a really good portal. And what I noticed is that you need a Dynamics license for it. But also, I'm wondering, is there more license to it, or is it okay to use only the Dynamics license if you have a Dynamics service license enterprise? Is that all you need, or do you need more to it, if you understand?
Good. Yeah, great question. So let me repeat the question. So you're asking if you already have Dynamics 365 customer service module from part of Dynamics, and then you're wondering, do you need additional licenses to surface that to your external users? And the answer would be yes, you would need some Power Pages licensing specifically for your external users. So yeah, there would be that, where the opposite, if you wanted to build a Power Pages site, you don't need those Dynamics licenses. But for the customer self-service, yes, you would need your customer self-service licenses for your own internal staff, and then you would need additional Power Pages licensing for your external users to access that. And those are sold in different packs and packages depending on what your volume is. Or you could even, the other option is pay as you go, where like Azure, you would pay depending on your usage. But I find that's a lot more expensive. So if you kind of know your numbers, then you can kind of keep it within that. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great questions, everyone. Is there any other questions for Nick before we move on to Gaute? All right. Gaute Kramvik. Good morning.
Hello. Well, good afternoon, good morning.
Good afternoon. Are you ready to tell us your experience with getting started with Power Pages?
Yeah, sure. Just let me share my screen first.
Yeah, sure. Are you able to, or do I need to do anything? Nope. You're good to go.
Does everyone
Take it
see my
away.
screen?
Yeah.
Great.
And please tell us about yourself first before you get going.
Yeah, my name is Gaute. I come from a company called Pointtaken. And about myself, my experience is basically coming from the SharePoint world. So I'm a SharePoint architect, SharePoint developer. And before this hackathon in February, I had never heard about Power Page before. So that was my absolute first time. So what I'm going to talk a little bit about today is just basically why we chose to work with Power Pages, what we made, and a little bit about a head-to-head challenge that we participated in. So just very briefly for everyone who do not know this, Arctic Cloud Developer Challenge, or ACDC, is a yearly event where everyone can participate. Just get a couple of friends or colleagues together, and you can participate in creating basically anything you want to create for a couple of days. And we got a couple of people together who come from, well, a bit of different backgrounds. Some are developers, some are back-end, front-end. One guy on the team was just full-on Dataverse. So we had a little bit of everything on the team. And what we chose to do was basically work with Power Pages. But why? Why on earth do we choose Power Pages when we have never done anything about it before? Well, the big reason is the guy you just heard from, who is Nick. We showed up pretty much without a plan, and when the judges present themselves, one of the guys was Nick, and he was telling me, telling everybody about his background and about Power Pages and what that was. And we thought, well, we need to present something, so why not use something that we know we can get help from one of the judges? And Nick was very helpful. This was my absolute first time even touching Power Pages. So it was very good to have someone to explain like the right management, how to set up tables, how the different stuff works. So without Nick, we would probably have gone for something completely different. A very big plus with Power Pages, and it's really fast, both to learn and to set up. Nick already showed us, gave us a little live demo of how it works. He could set up basically an environment in under 20 minutes. So when you have 3 days to make something, it's very good to have a system that's really fast. And also it comes with, as Nick showed us, lots of different pre-made templates. So you can basically just go ahead immediately and just start working on something. And a big plus for someone like me, it's developer friendly. You can, as Nick showed, either just work with almost like a drag and drop functionality, but you can also just open everything with Visual Studio Code. So if you know just a little bit about front-end development, if you know your CSS and JavaScript and HTML, you are basically just ready to go. You can also use like pre-made stuff like Bootstrap, or you can just make everything from scratch. But you have the opportunity to just get in, open a portal, and start working with Visual Studio Code and just push everything on the go. And that was very, very helpful when you just have a couple days to produce something. And of course, Power Platform and Dataverse. Everything is stored in Dataverse. And everything just works really well with the rest of Power Platform. We used Power BI and Power Automate. So to just have something that can speak with the rest of the components with barely any configuration, that was a big plus for us. So everything is connected and it was no hassle for us. So that was basically the reason why. What we made, I can't show you a live demo, unfortunately, because we made everything on a demo tenant, which we do not have access to anymore, but I'll show you some slides and talk about those. Really quick about Arctic Cloud Developer Challenge. This year it was pirate themed. Every year it has a different theme. It's everything from turtles to Legos to superheroes. So the basic plan was make something that you can show within 3 days that is pirate based. So what we did, okay, well, let's make a Matey Finder, which basically was a system where we thought, okay, well, we have a bunch of pirates. They do not have ships to sail on. Let's connect pirates without ships to captains who have ships. So that was the basic idea. I'm not going to go too much into details, but the entire point was, well, basically, you have a captain on the ship. He can register a raid to go somewhere and capture foreign boats. And then you have a bunch of pirates, and let's use AI to connect pirates to ships. That was the basic idea. So that was something we could make in 3 days. We used pretty much everything from the Power Platform. We used like basic canvas apps. Everything here looks like really crude, but you know, we have 3 days and you have limited time to make everything look super sexy. But our basic idea, okay, let's make a nice little video game inspired pirate app with lots of like 8-bit like design elements, and just make it work with all the different components. So we have the Power Apps, we had Power BI, and the portal that we made was basically a landing page where you could go in and register yourself as a pirate. We had skills you could update. As a pirate, you can go in and see the available raids, and everything of this is just data that is stored in Dataverse, pretty much like Nick showed us in his previous demo. And the cool thing about the Dataverse, which well, I thought was really interesting, is that you have the different like authentication groups. So you can basically create different content for different kind of groups and just host everything in one portal and just set the access management just based on what group you belong to. And all this is just from Dataverse. So this was basically, we made a portal, started with a blank sheet and just created some columns in HTML and just grabbed stuff from Dataverse. It's very easy and very simple. And all the different pirates, they have their own little scorecard where we grabbed skills from Dataverse. For instance, this guy, which was me, I had I was pretty good at sailing, I was good to navigate, but my fighting skills were pretty lackluster. So we had like an AI engine in the background who just chose, okay, if a captain needs a raid that requires lots of sailing and not that much fighting, well, this pirate will be the right person for the job. Yeah, and everything this is just hosted in the Power Pages. During the hackathon, you have something called head-to-head challenges, which basically is the different judges, they present a challenge, and then it is up to the different groups to just try to solve it in as little time as possible, and the winner gets a couple of points and a couple of badges. So this particular challenge was to enable Power Pages in a web app to show Dataverse data on an offline enabled page while being offline, which was a little bit tricky. So basically the challenge is to make a website that can show data from Dataverse while being offline. And for us, that was a little bit of a challenge. We had never thought about it before and how to make it work. But you can win like different badges if you use different technologies. So what we decided to do is to go completely retro and try to solve this using really old school technology for all you web developers there. It's something called jQuery, which you probably used a lot in the past, which is exactly what we chose to do. So what it was, you had a page which only you can see if you are offline, you navigate to it. Let's see you out on the open seas, and suddenly you lose connection to internet. You have no internet, but you would like to access data while being offline. So we used like a really nasty hack where we used basically jQuery and something called local storage. I know it's probably a mixed crowd here, so I'm not going to go too much into the nerdy details. But basically what we do is just to add some function, and then we add content from Dataverse to the local storage using jQuery. And just by magic, you can get offline data shown on an online web. You can get the online data on offline websites from Dataverse. So this one is not very pretty. It was like a work. It was a proof of concept. You can go into an offline page and get data from Dataverse. It's not very pretty and it's stupid, but if it's stupid and it works, you get an award. So there's two very happy bald men smiling. In a like real life work example, we would never do it like this. That would be an absolutely horrendous way to do it. We'd probably use something with Power Automate and try to push Dataverse to like an offline page. But this being a hackathon and you have just a couple minutes to work on, this is what we chose to do, and it worked. So we got some badges, and I got a nice little goodie bag with some flasks and some stickers and whatnot. And I got to shake Nick's hand, so that's good. That was a highlight. All right, that was a very quick walkthrough on what we did and what we made. No real life live demo, but I hope you just enjoy the pretty pictures.
Perfect, Gaute. Thank you so much. And I hope you wouldn't bring up that head-to-head challenge because you won, and I also tried to do it. So yeah, this is the last time we're going to talk about it. Okay.
All right, there again. That's fine. I think I saw a hand.
Yeah, hopefully we did. Any questions? Get that? Was it a virtual hand or a real life hand?
I think there was a virtual hand, but it wasn't. Then
it was a
maybe
mistake
someone back
for me. So
okay.
That's all right. All right, Gaute, thank you so much. If anyone has any questions for Gaute that they want to take offline, then make sure to reach out so we can share his experiences with you. Before we move on to Franco, because what Franco's going to demo is so much cooler than what I'm going to demo. I'm going to do mine first. So I'm just going to try to switch gears a little. And let's see, I think maybe we're going to lose the screen because I'm going to do a application. Let's see. Maybe I should have prepared this a little in advance. Okay, so I'm gonna, so you can see my screen now, right? And now we lose you, of course, because I don't share. So I'm gonna do this. Because this is the point, you're gonna see this at the same time. Okay, so you can all see yourself now. Thumbs up, please. Can you see anything? Can you see me sharing your screen? Yeah, Gaute is nodding. Yeah, that's great. So first of all, I'm going to show you something that is, it's a portal that I did for Azure. I think Funi's here today. He's the manager of Azure. They needed a portal where because they use Jira as their support system. And the form that they created there is very cumbersome. It's huge. It's so many choices. People get lost. So what Funi wanted was a portal where you had an easier portal, or sorry, a form that's easier to understand, something that's a little simpler for the people to understand and to go through. So what we created, just spend a week or so just putting this together really quick. It's out of the box functionality, almost to the T. It's I'm going to show you the equipment shop part is custom, but otherwise it's really what Nick showed and what Gaute did. It's creating forms and lists on the back end and pages and HTML front end. So this is the portal, and I've signed in the way that Nick showed us that you sign in, and then I can see major incidents, for instance, here, which are people creating support tickets. They can actually set something as a major incident, and it will show on the start page for everyone, for instance. So this is a real quick way to make that happen. Just simple click yes here. This is a default form out of the box. Just a drop down, text description. You have a drop down to show what kind of impact it has, high impact, major incident. Pop-up comes up if you choose yes, to explain to you why this is important, that you don't use major incidents if it's not a real problem, and then you submit it and it will show up on the front page as a major incident, for instance. So this is, you'll get a summary of what you selected, and that's one, and then it's another major incident on the first page. This is a proof of concept, of course. They also have a need for equipment. If a user would want to order a new PC or a mouse or keyboard, for instance, they would come in here. They can sort through the equipment, or they can just browse through the different products that are available to see. They can select it, because I know this is the one I want. I can simply select it, or I can choose to view details to get to a place where I can view the images, and then yes, this is the one I want to select this. Adds it to a form. So this is a form, default form with one custom component on top. So this is just custom HTML, CSS, and then this is a form where I see this is a summary, this is my description, I submit it, and then it gives me that summary as well that I can print to have as a receipt, for instance, on my computer. The last thing is, if you require access to any system, I can put in that I need some access to a system. I need SharePoint access, for instance, and can send that in, and that is submitted. This is a very good use case in my view for very simple things that you can do with Power Pages that doesn't require a lot of custom development. This is something that a low coder or a citizen developer can do. If you know a little HTML and CSS, you know your way around Power Pages. This is simply export a way to get Dataverse data, gather data into Dataverse, for instance. Very simple way to do that. Yeah, so this is quick from me. Just to show what Power Pages can be used for as a very simple use case. And that has probably given Franco some time to prepare. Let me just try to see it. Franco, are you ready to demo Hussoppen?
Yes, good to go.
That's great. Let me just get my screens in order. Let me do this. Are you able to share your screen? Yes, that's great. Okay, Franco, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and what this product is, what we're doing for Norwegian house fungus insurance.
Okay, sure. So going back quite some time, I've been involved with Dynamics since 2006. I've worked very heavily on case management outside of portals, but all kinds of XRM, anything relationship management. And my side gig used to be cobbling together WordPress sites, doing little bits of theme development. So when portals came along, it was like a very happy coincidence for me that it brought together these two worlds, really. So all those complicated business processes that I'd be working on, workflows, email automation, etc., in the offline world, on-premise in Dynamics, I saw some real value in, well, in fact, let's invite the customer into that process. And instead of saying, for example, I'll tick a box to say the customer's provided some information, and then I'll mark a task complete and key in all this information, we can actually just let them do it themselves, self-serve, move the process along, and have it available to them 24/7. So I was immediately sold with Power Apps portals or Dynamics CRM portals when it first came along. So with this NHF Insider portal, this is got a couple of different use cases. So it's all about insurance, as Ulrika mentioned. We can view policies, we can download copies of our insurance, and we can make claims through this portal. It's multilingual, which portals do. Power Pages does really nicely out of the box. We've got external authentication with Bank ID. And lots of this is really we have put together very quickly. We're now at a point where it's, I'd say, probably 99% complete, and we're just smoothing out the rough edges. But again, this external authentication, really nice and easy to do out of the box. This is using Bank ID and Signicat, a third-party provider for Bank ID integration. So we've done some customizations on the back of that. We've got a plugin that runs to say, well, if you're an existing customer that we know about that has a matching Bank ID, but you've never logged into the portal before, let's merge those records together. So rather than create an orphan record, a duplicate record, it ties the two together. So similar to what an invitation process would look like, apart from we've never sent out that invitation process. We want to reconcile a new login, a totally fresh login with a contact that we happen to have in Dynamics. The styling that you see is all thanks to Ulrika's great work, and these card layouts are ever popular with all kinds of different clients, but we've got some personalized information on the page. We've got an automatic alert would come up if I'd not refreshed my contact details or confirmed my contact details in a set period of time. I'd have a prompt to say either tick here to say these are still correct, or go away to the profile form and update those. I can see any of my existing damage, so these might not make much sense in the real world. These are my dummy records. And I can see my existing insurance. So this dashboard experience is custom, but we're using Liquid, HTML, CSS, a lot of standard web technologies. And you can see for switch the language, lots of that is just automatically translated, nice and easy, again, available out of the box. So we've got basic forms in some places. We've got layered on top bits of functionality, and that bits of custom functionality, and that's a common theme really for the way I would approach projects with a small to medium budget, and certainly for clients where they've got configuration staff on board, their own functional consultants maybe that can tweak dataverse forms, views, business processes, but don't necessarily want to get their hands dirty with front-end development. So I will tend to take the basis of those out-of-the-box forms, the out-of-the-box list, that functionality, and then layer on top of it. So I'll show you a few different examples of that. If I was to go to cancel this agreement, for example, what you might start to notice is that at the end of a lot of these URLs, I have $ID equals and then a GUID. That's one of the first things that I started to notice as I was customizing portals, that we can pass information through the URL with these parameters, which is straightforward but very powerful. So one of the common use ones there is, as you can see, which record is it that we want to view or that we want to edit. So we've then tied in some custom UI with an out-of-the-box form. And we've got some settings on here that, again, just configurable out of the box, some metadata to say, we don't just want this to be a standard edit form, the way you can change things like the status reason or any particular fields. We want to capture things that are specific to a cancellation, and on submission, we want to change the status reason on the back of that. Still some debugging going on, as you can see. And then we wanted to show some live updates. So Nick mentioned we've got caching, so sometimes we've got to do some work to work around that. But in this example, because I've submitted a form that's invalidated the cache on my session, I can show immediately some feedback that has been cancelled. So that's an example of where Liquid, the templating language, can just help out a little bit. So otherwise, what we could have done is stuck with the out-of-the-box experience that we submit the form and we'd have just remained on that form, maybe shown a status reason there. So another consideration of mine is usually, how do we give the user that instant feedback, and where's the next best place to go to? So cancellation, maybe back to the policy in this example. If it was submitting a question, maybe I'm taken back to a list of all my questions. I go to my cases. I'll see a history here of all the cases that I've created, and I'm taking away to different options depending on whether it's a damage case or it's just a contact case. I've not got many different examples here, but here's one. And I'll take you to some of the more exciting UI in a moment. But this,
very happy that you're using the dev environment, Franco, because we're in the middle of expanding this functionality, so that attachment on the right side is not really, that's in work in progress. Stig are biting our nails and oh no, hope it doesn't go there. But yeah, you did great.
You know me, I always bring the chaos.
Of course, no worries. Just showing that yeah, this is what it looks like, work in progress. So the right side vedlegg or attachment on the right side is not really complete. It's something that we're actually working on as we speak, but it's visible for anyone during development, and we work on it together, and it works great.
Yeah, so quite often I'll do on this particular project, I'll do the Liquid stuff behind the scenes, so exposing whatever data Ulrika needs to make it look fantastic, and then she'll put the best user experience on top of that. So for example, this timeline view, which I think is awesome, kind of iOS inspired, that we can see the conversation from the point of view of here's what Hussopp have sent to the customer, here's what the customer are saying in response to that. We've got our inline images and the means to reply. So the idea that is a very intuitive user experience, but this is actually a basic form which you have in the out-of-the-box components, but we've added that liquid to augment it. But all this functionality again is just baked in out of the box, so we don't have to code things to take care of which fields are mandatory, which fields are optional, pre-populating fields, enforcing business rules. That kind of thing just happens out of the box. If we want workflows to run off the back of this, again, it's all just leveraging our existing Dataverse skills. So I can see my case is up to this particular stage at the moment, and some nice custom implementation of the timeline view. Not my work, but it's nice to see it in line along with mine. I think it looks awesome. So we've got messaging, we've got case management, we've got the ability to maintain our insurance as validity, renewals, that kind of thing. And then, as I said, the other thing is to be able to make claims for damage against our insurance policies. So we originally created two versions of the process that we're about to see. One was for unauthenticated users. So they are maybe insured through an intermediary, a third party. Their insurance is through NHF, but they're not actually aware of having a relationship with them. That this isn't the company they would interact with. It would be their broker, for example. So that would be where the unauthenticated experience comes in. And what they could do for that is to say they'd arrive with a link like this. Oh, in fact, sorry, I think I'm trying to show you some old functionality there. Ignore that. But the idea is that they could have arrived in with a link from the broker, and when they land on this portal, they would see the broker's branding to make it feel more familiar to them rather than NHF's branding. So I'm going to report some damage. I'll show you various customizations along the way, but the basis of this is a multi-step form, which is kind of building on the same premise that we would get with that basic form, which, as you saw, was just a single screen. With a multi-step form, we've got session management, we've got multiple steps, so like a wizard-based experience, and we've got conditional branching throughout that process. So depending on my answers, I'll be taken through a different path. So in the first instance, I've got to provide my address. So we've got some customization here on the form that is using a property ownership API that will say, based on the national identity number of the person that's logged in, what properties do they own? So this is the only one for my test user. Am I insured through a particular insurer? So we know that from my contact record. That's why it's pre-populated. I can specify when the damage occurred. So something that I struggled a little bit with is locking that down so I couldn't select a date in the future. That's all sorted now. Lots of very basic little customizations, as you'd probably be used to from other online forms that we have to complete. So for example, if we select other, we've got to specify what that was. We've got probably going into a little bit too much detail here, but cool customization that Ulrika helped me out with was to show the placeholders within the field. So that's not something you get out of the box. This would usually display above the field, below the field, above the field name. And we've used some JavaScript to say, well, take that from where it would be and append that as a placeholder instead. I just turned on Snagit by accident. So every time I progress through this multi-step form, all the validation is running in the back end, any workflow. It's updating on a multi-step form.
I'm struggling to hear
On
you,
step
Franco. Sorry, Franco. I'm struggling a bit to hear your
So
audio.
can you hear
is
me
a
any
little-
better now?
I'm not sure. Is that only me, or
just
Gaute, did that happen to you as well?
Yeah, he's falling out a little bit.
Okay, Mark. Question 2. Mark.
Yeah, I was going in and out a little bit.
Sorry.
Okay, let's just continue to
Alright.
see if it's helpful, because this is really cool what you're going to show next. I really need people to get this. Go on, Franco. Let's see what happens.
Okay, I'm just plugging in an external mic to see if that's any better. Just one moment.
Yep, sure. Let's fingers crossed it's not an internet issue.
Can you hear me any better now?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Yeah, let's move on. Let's see if it's any better now.
Okay. Right, so I'm now at the point where I want to upload some evidence, and the gap here was out of the box, not necessarily with portals, but with Dataverse. And I apologize for saying out of the box so much. But we've got, let's imagine what a purist would do with the data model. So we've got a case, we've got a damage report that links to that case, and then each piece of evidence we want to be able to approve or reject individually. So we've then got multiple levels of data. We've got a case, a damage report, multiple damage report evidence records, and each of those damage report evidence records will have an attachment, whether that's a PDF, a JPEG, a video recording, whatever that might be. So the first iteration of this, when we went with the out-of-the-box experiences of basic forms, multi-step forms, it was very clunky, not specifically because of how portals work or Power Pages work, but because the data model was so complex. So we needed to have any number of evidence records, each with its own approval rejections status, separate to the damage report status, separate to the case's status. So let's say we wanted to attach 10 images, we would need to create 10 evidence records using forms. Once that evidence record was created, only then could we attach. So there's another set of clicks. So let's say, without exaggeration, to upload 10 files would probably involve around 50 clicks. So we would get the end result we wanted if the user could be bothered doing those 50 clicks. So what I'm going to show in this example is what we've implemented with drag and drop. And for accessibility and mobile friendliness, we also needed to make this work without a drag and drop. So there's also the alternative that you can click on the control and that will bring up the native file browser. So as I say, that's more for if you're on a device that doesn't have drag and drop capability natively or easily. Like, for example, if I was on my mobile, I can't see my file system to then drag and drop the files. I would instead tap on that area and it would bring up the native iOS or Android file picker. So this uses the Portal Web API. I'm bringing in a web template into the instructions on this form to actually make this appear as part of this multi-step form. And then what I can do is select any number of images or files or whatever I want to area, create some records for me. So this is going to regarding this damage report on the struggling at the moment. So what I'll see when they upload, which is usually super quick. So this is the demo code's not treating us too well. So yeah, they've created me in this example 4 related records with the files. And then what we originally had is you couldn't do any addition or deletion or editing on this page. You would go to a subsequent step in the form. You'd have an editable grid and you could make all the changes there. So the changes might be that we want you to categorize what type of damage this is. We want you to give us a quick description as to what this photo represents, what damage it is. So what we've done since is to condense it onto this same step. So the idea is, if, for example, I don't want that image anymore, just hit delete. The web API will get rid of that. If I want to, for example, explain what's inside this zip folder, hit the edit icon. I can say, in fact, I didn't mean to upload that file, but maybe this file. And maybe that's a picture.
All right, good. Yeah, I think the video froze a little for us. We didn't see the part where you actually drag and drop the images. I think the internet connection's not that great. But this is good.
Sorry.
I think it's catching up now. We can actually see your marker blinking on the screen. Great.
Okay.
Yep, just go. Yep, show us. Show us. I noticed that we're 1 minute to time as well. I think this is really valuable, and I know that Franco's going to show you in a minute what this looks like under the hood. But if anyone needs to leave, I do understand that completely. So then thank you for attending. If you want to stick around, we'll stick around for another half hour, I think, just to see how this looks under the hood and on the code side as well. So yeah.
Okay, I'll just quickly show that
Go ahead, Franco. I'll give you another 10 minutes to show us this under the hood as well. And if there's any questions from the audience, well, feel free to stick around or give them to me afterwards. No problem. So yeah, just keep on going, Franco. Yep.
Just drag and drop a few files in again. So that I said he's using the Portal Web API to fire those across to Dataverse. It respects all the permissions, just like if we were doing this manually through the portal using forms, etc. But the key point there, as I said, was it's flattened the data model. It's cut so many clicks out of what we would need to achieve doing this with forms only. And then, as I say, each time I click through a step in the process, I'm updating that record live in Dataverse. And then again, asking ourselves, what's a useful experience? So where do we want to go from here? So we've replaced the form there with some custom output with Liquid. Again, we've included it in this multi-step form using the instructions field. And then when we finish that journey, again, it's about asking what's a useful next step for the client. So that in this example is providing this confirmation, letting them know what happens next. Perhaps they want to print the page, or they want to go and view the case because they want to comment on that. So the aim that I'm trying to get across really is this about providing a joined up experience. So then let's quickly see that in the back end. So I'm going to show you that in, sorry, I know we're struggling for time. I've waffled on a bit too much there, but I'll show you briefly in both the portal management app and in Power Pages. I'll let that load in.
Just while we wait for this to load, if anyone's very keen on getting the source code of that drag and drop component, is there anywhere that we can find blog posts or tutorials on how to do something like this?
Yes, nice plug. Something very close to it, at least. So the example that I've got in my blog is for adding attachments to cases. So yeah, absolutely have a read up on there. Someone's already asked if I can expand that to cover the edit and the delete button, so that'll be coming soon. So you can find that on francomusso.com, and it's got about as logical a name as it can possibly have.
Fantastic. And if you're not interested in doing this yourself, and like following tutorials, you're able to hire for work, aren't you?
I am, yes, but there's one heck of a backlog at the moment. But yeah, all the code's there. But all you would really need to change to get this working for a different type of table rather than cases is really the fields that it's writing to. But I've tried to infuse that with videos and code snippets and stuff.
Nice. So if you need this before Christmas, you do it yourself, or else call Franco.
Right, sorry.
And this is really cool. I really appreciate you sharing this kind of thing in a blog post. That's open source. That's amazing. That's what community does, and we appreciate you taking the time to share those things with the community.
Thank you. It's the least I can do, seeing that I learned so much from your blog and Nick's blog as well.
Oh, thanks.
Right, so the type of out-of-the-box component that I've used for that is a multi-step form, previously known as an advanced form. So here we are, report down.
You're breaking up again. Let's see.
Yeah.
Internet. It seems to be an internet kind of issue, unfortunately.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, that's
Right,
okay.
so here are the form steps. So each of these is very much like its own form. I can say, which table from Dataverse do I want to use? Do I want to load an entire form or just one tab from that particular form? Is it conditional? So for branching, what do I want to take a look at? So in this example, it was the number of evidence records. I want to treat things differently based on whether somebody has or hasn't uploaded evidence. We've got a redirect at the end. And then if I look at the evidence page, that's where I've got the drag and drop going on. What I'm doing there is loading a tab from the form. So this, as I said, is just saying this particular table from Dataverse, which form do we want to load, which tab, where do we get the ID of that record? So how do we know which damage report that we're editing? It's the result of the previous. And then in the instructions field, we've got some of our custom stuff like that step counter you saw at the top of the page. Previously, we had the a table being brought in there. So now what's happening with JavaScript is I'm saying hide the subgrid we would usually have. We want to count how many rows are in that table. So there's a benefit of still having the subgrid of evidence on there so we can check easily for any records. And then I'm going to get an endpoint. So basically, I'm telling this page using Ajax, go and retrieve another page from the portal using that URL pattern that I mentioned before, where it was question mark ID equals and then a GUID. So I tell this very ugly looking web page, go and load for this particular record. And then when you retrieve that information, that HTML. So the endpoints we can do as JSON, but in this example, it made more sense to do with HTML because I wanted, for example, that upload control. I wanted the preview images. I'll show you an example of what that looks like by itself. So I've got it in my browser history. So you see, it doesn't look like much by itself. So in this example, because at this stage, it's not got any CSS applied to it. All I've done is created all the functionality that I wanted on this web page with a web template and a page template, and then said, tell the other page to load this in. And all the styling happens on the parent page in this form. So I'll show you quickly the web template that builds that up. So usually if we want to populate anything on the portal, we want to output Dataverse data in a free-form way rather than a list. We do that with fetch XML. So that's what I'm doing to start with. Any existing attachments, go and retrieve that data. Output some information depending on whether it's in Norwegian or English, the user's selected language. Output those thumbnails. So they differ depending on the file type. So I'm just showing some slightly different information there with liquid conditions, whether it's a PDF, a video, a zip file, an image. And then the snippet is very much what I've got on my blog. So we need to handle some particular events. Is it a drag enter? Is it a drag leave? So it's very much like a mouse over or a hover, apart from the operating system understands whether it's with the intent to drag and drop because there are files selected. So we listen out for that event. We add a class so that there's some visual difference between in the control based on whether there's a
I think we lost you again, Franco.
First of all, regarding that.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, to
But this is all.
quickly recap then.
Yeah.
We've got fetch XML to get our existing attachments, our existing evidence records. We output those as thumbnails of different types depending on the file type. We've then got some JavaScript to listen out for drag and drop events, because there isn't a HTML control that natively does drag and drop. It's JavaScript that makes that happen. We're adding classes in various places so we can style the output differently depending on whether there's no drag and drop event, there's a file's dragged over the control, or there's a file that's been dropped. And then what we're listening for is the drop. And we run this function with the Portal Web API to say, create a damage report evidence file. Damage report evidence record with the contents of that file. Use Dataverse REST Builder to create these API requests. So we first of all create the damage report evidence record. Then we read the file. Then we upload the data to the file column on that evidence record. And then finally, because we want to show the user some visual feedback, we'll then say append that to the page. And again, we'll take one of two routes depending on whether it's an image or another type of column.
Very nice. I think this is a real good example of having something out of the box and enhancing it with custom code. This is just beautiful.
Thank you. And then another little hobby that I've been working on, some R&D for other portals, is customizing the output of lists. So if you've not dug into lists much yet, they're really powerful in Power Pages, very quick to set up. You've got searching, sorting, filtering, you've got actions for each row in the list. Do you want to be able to view, edit, run a workflow, delete, deactivate? They can be conditional based on criteria like the status reason of each row in the record. So I've been looking at ways that we can traverse what comes out of the box with that list and show a different kind of output, like a card or a diagram or whatever. That's what I'm looking at next. But yeah, I think, like I said, that it's a very flexible approach if we look at augmenting what allows us to deliver value very quickly, minimize that time to value, and it leaves it very much editable by clients that only have configurers and functional consultants rather than front-end developers that they just need to, for example, tweak a form or a viewing Dataverse. And it's as simple as that to make changes. But my customizations are very much usually based around, like I showed there, flattening the data model as much as possible.
Absolutely, creating a better user experience and removing hurdles and clicks and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Sorry, I've gone over there.
Oh, that's completely fine. It's recorded, so people had to leave can look at the recording later and get the whole thing. That's great. Thank you so much, Franco, for showing us this, and thank you so much to Hussoppen, which was so gracious to allow us to show you their code, actually. So this is really cool as well. Are there any questions for Franco or to whatever you've seen today? Anything that you want to comment on or ask questions about? All right. Yeah, one question from Trim.
Yeah, just a quick question for Franco. I was just wondering if you could talk about how your development team composition has been for this project and how long the development period has been so far and how long you expect it to be before full release.
Yeah, good question. It's a little bit of a strange one, actually, because we originally had a month with only myself working on it, and that was August last year, when all of Norway pretty much were on holiday, and they wanted somebody to do a proof of concept. And I would say we got about 70% completion in that 1 month. And then the floodgates opened up with requirements. So that's when we built out the team more, because they, all credit to the client, they're an excellent client. They wanted to provide a first-class experience internally as well. So they were doing things like seeing how far they can push dynamic sales and the customer service workspace, all the latest and greatest in Dynamics. Then we expanded on the portal side of things, brought Ulrika on, and the UI just got remarkably better, as did the user experience. So there would have been lots in those days that functioned but wasn't the smoothest user experience. But yeah, I think part of what's dragged it out for that period of time is that so much more of the business is going to come onto it. So they, for example, weren't going to have damage reporting until a future phase. And then once we'd done the proof of concept of that, then it was like, wow, yeah, we can't really justify going live without this. Let's do that. And then our agents, they could do with the portal. So we built that in the same period of time as well.
Yeah. And in terms of the team, it's been Franco doing the development. I've been doing the front end, and the customers been doing some of the low coding themselves. And then now we have Stig with us as well, which is also doing some front end work. And that's about it. So like Franco was saying initially, he would make data available through with the web API, or create the forms and lists and whatever else you would need on the Dataverse side. And then we would do front end on top after that. And then we work simultaneously going forward from that.
And without giving too much away, there's new features that are rolling out over the next couple weeks that will allow a much better fusion experience from like the kind of stuff that Franco does, and a maker with like using web templates as components. So I probably already said too much, but keep an eye open for that. So that's really going to help accelerate the maker experience to utilize what a developer does without having to, even have employ that developer. So keep an eye open for that. And that's all I'll say about that now.
Thank you. We will not get you in trouble anyway. I'm glad you said it. That's great. Thank you, Nick. Mark has a question.
Yes. How extensible can we make these Power Pages? I see that there were some talk of PWAs and using local storage. But can we extend it even further by using WASM? I know like Microsoft's Blazor product or any .NET features.
Probably not WASM directly, Mark. Sorry, I just jumped in and answered that. I hope that's okay, folks. But in terms of the extensibility, it is on the back end, like as Franco showed a lot of the like liquid and HTML. And I'm not sure, and maybe Franco touched on this as well. We also have a web API that talks into Dataverse. And that is very much it's just a subset essentially of the Dataverse web API as well. And then there's also in the roadmap as well, integration into cloud flows and things like that. So the answer to the question directly, no, not so much into the WASM Blazor type area, but in terms of extensibility, especially the improvements over the last couple of years, as a pro developer, you have a lot of options to tie into this platform, and not only on Power Pages, but on a lot of other aspects as well. If you have any more specific questions around that, like I'll have my deck up somewhere. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or something like that, and so I can see if I can help you out with specific questions.
Well, I think a nice one, just expanding on that, Nick, something that We had a last minute requirement on a previous project where the client wanted to be able to package they've built an FAQ site. It was actually for the police in the UK. They had an FAQ site up on Power Pages and asked at very much the last minute, can we package this as an Android app? Can we package this as an iOS app? And what we did to facilitate that was we just created a load of JSON endpoints. And then for the mobile app developers, it was really quite a trivial piece of work. It didn't matter whether it was coming from Power Pages or any other JSON source. So I think that can be quite a useful quick win when it comes to integrations.
Yes, that is a quick win. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom. We have another question, Mohammed. Was that a quick question before we move on? I see we're 8 minutes on to time. Then I need to leave.
Yes.
Yeah, quick question.
Yes, please. It will be a quick. I wanted to ask about the authentication that you did with the bank login and all. Was it integrated with Power Pages native Open API Connect or Auth2, or you are doing it on top of Azure Active Directory B2C?
This particular one wasn't using Azure AD B2C. My first choice would usually be Azure AD B2C, but for that particular client, they chose to use Signicat, this third-party provider. So it was just an OpenID Connect configurable provider. But one of the key decisions behind that is they had very poor data from an email address point of view. I always find Azure AD B2C works so much more cleanly if you've got unique email addresses for each customer and you've got an email address for the majority of customers. They were very worried that they only had something like, I don't know, but I'm guessing here maybe 60% of customers they actually had a reliable email address for.
All right, thanks.
No problem.
I've tried to share my screen with you just to wrap up. Can you see my screen? Mark has another hand up. Yeah, Mike insists.
Yes, one last question. Are you able to create components, like have a component library like in Power Apps for Power Pages, so you don't have to keep on rewriting the same component?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so what I tend to use for that is web templates. So you can create as big or as small a component as you like as a web template. And then you can include that in as many places as you like using the Liquid's include tag. And you can also parameterize that. You can make it dynamic and adapt to different situations. That would be my preferred way to do it.
You also can use Power Apps component framework that you use in Canvas apps. Obviously with portals, it's a little bit, take some considerations into that, but you can use PCF controls as well if that's your flavor of choice as well. You have that ability as well.
Okay, good, excellent, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Great. All right. You can still see my screen, right, Mike? Yep. Thumbs up. All right. I don't want to keep you over the next hour, so just a quick wrap up for me. Where to find more resources or people to follow, or how to find out more? Well, there's a release planner from Microsoft. It's a website that will show you the different what's coming up, what's newly released. It's a website where you can filter and subscribe to the products that you're most interested in. This, by the way, this presentation and links to all of our blogs and where you can find everyone and connect. I will make that available and I will share that online. So the same place you found, the way you found this event and registered, that is also where you'll find links to this documentation afterwards or this presentation. Also, if you're interested in Power Pages, Tino Ribe, he has a great weekly newsletter dedicated to Power Pages and beyond. He's really, really good at picking up small pieces and big announcements. So if you're interested in Pages specifically news, then this is a newsletter to subscribe to. I think this is a LinkedIn kind of newsletter. I think it's only on LinkedIn. So make sure to follow or find Tino Ribe or Power Pages and Beyond newsletter on LinkedIn. Also, Portal's community call. Nicholas Hayduk has, or Engineered Code as is also known by, he's had the Portal's community call forever. It's once a month and it's online. It's also recorded. You can find the whole archive on YouTube. It's really something to look at if you're diving into Power Pages. And for if you're new, things that apply to Power Apps portals or Power Dynamics 365 portals, a lot of those things still apply to Power Pages. It's mostly the same code underneath. So if you find stuff for those, it's worth looking into, even if it looks old. Power Platform Weekly, also a newsletter for the whole Power Platform, where you can find if there's any new announcements for any of the product in Power Platform, including Power Pages, they will show up here. So this is something you should subscribe to as well. Comes out every Monday morning. So we just got this week's issue. And as Nick shamelessly plugged, we have a Power Platform week bi-weekly podcast called Power Platform Boost. Next recording is next week. So look out for that. It's for the whole Power Platform, not only Power Pages, but last recording on May 1st, we talked so much about Power Pages. We called the whole episode for Power Pages Week. So if you're interested in Power Pages and what's new and understanding the new virtual table, the permission or support for virtual tables, or the solution awareness and all the things that Nick showed earlier, if you're interested in knowing more about that, then that's a great way to start. And of course, all the links to all the things we talk about is in the show notes as well. So that's a great way to start to understand the new things coming in. Last 1 minute ago, the next Portallunsj will be on August 16th. It's every middle Wednesday of the month, or every 3 months when Portallunsj is happening. So the next one is not August 6th, as it says on the left, but on August 16th, as it in the picture on the right. That will be in Norwegian. That will not be recorded. So we're back to our original format. And then we'll have a poll during that meeting to see what we're going to do going forward. Because if it's a good, if people need this in English and recorded, then that's something we'll look into doing more. We'll let the originals decide, original gang. All right, this is all that we had today. I really appreciate everyone showing up. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I will for a couple of minutes, or you can ask me, send me an email or reach out on any social media. I usually respond quite quickly to anyone's questions. I'll stop the recording. No, sorry, stop the sharing. I will also stop the recording. And that's it. Thank you so much. And thank you to all the great presenters today. Thank you, Nick and Gaute and Franco, for sharing all this good, the things that you do, and the solutions and the portals that you've created. It's really great. Thank you so much. Applause, virtual and real applause to you. I'll leave it to go back to you, Day, then. Thank you so much. I'll try to start the recording if I'm able. Yeah, have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Mark. Thank you for all the good questions.
See you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.